Is it the right time to ask your boss for a raise or a promotion? And what are the things that you should consider before you go in? Welcome to How to Get What You Want. This podcast is for driven women ready to claim their goals and navigate their careers with clarity and confidence. Join me as we explore real stories, tools, and strategies to help you steer your career exactly where you want to go. Let's get started on helping you get what you want. Welcome to Get What You Want. This podcast is really about what you need to do to get what you want. And sometimes it's defining that. But today I'm going to talk about a question I get a lot. And to be honest, I avoid a lot because the true answer is it depends. Just like any negotiation, anything that we face, part of the reason that it causes us to have anxiety or fear, apprehension, self-doubt is because we're unsure. We're unsure if the other person is the decision maker, if they can make the decision right now. How do they feel about me and my value? What is on the other side? And without having clarity around that, it makes it more difficult. What should we ask for? When should we ask for it? No matter where you are, you might think this is geared toward a certain level. To be honest, it's not. This happens at all levels. And so often we get in our own way because of those emotions that come to mind. Maybe it's caused by past experience that has now inhibited us in terms of how we view asking for more. Maybe we've heard stories from other people. Maybe we've even tried and gotten no. It's really difficult to think about when does this happen. It's almost easier when you're going for a new job and you're negotiating that salary because you're forced to be in there and you're forced to, on the timing, to really push for what you need and what you want because there is a time frame. And when it's just for you advocating for yourself, since there's not allocated to that necessarily, you might think about for you, it might be during an annual review or at a certain time in the organization's best decision-making time period. So thinking about that can help be the catalyst to move through. But without that, it's so easy for us to get in our own way and to put it off and to wait. And I looked up a couple stats around that, and they found that people that wait are putting themselves at risk because the longer you wait for an increase, the bigger impact it'll have over time. When you don't ask, you don't know. So even if you get a no, even preparing for a no can help you understand what are the conditions you need to consider. And so when you get those opportunities, think of it about it as a data collection so that you know when the right time is to go. A study from a Journal of Applied Psychology found that tying it to something that's specific to the company, some achievement or milestone that is directly related to something that's important to the company or the boss, people are 25% more likely to have a better response because it's aligned there. And even thinking about when you want to, using the idea of anchoring to understand more information, when people that do that to really show that I'm going to ask for this, I'm going to be bold, or if it's an expectation of who you are, that makes people ready for it, or it makes them plan for it. So there's a psychological aspect to it too. If you're somebody that doesn't ask, and boy, I'll tell you, I used to be there when I didn't ask for what I needed or wanted. My peer Dan always did, and they always considered stuff for him. And I benefited from that because of the fact that they had to keep it equal on both sides. So if you're just being quiet, that signals more and that gets you ready. And then Glassdoor, there was a study that said 59% of employees who negotiate their salary receive higher pay. And it's 37% of the time initiate those conversations ongoing. And so when you negotiate that, you're more likely to do it again at the right time. So it's like a muscle. It's looking at what are the conditions, always asking yourself so that you can time it right. You can think about your value. I also think the other thing that gets in our way is we don't truly understand our value, or we don't appreciate our own value as much as we can. Other people around us do. They might say how good we are at something, but if we're not thinking about that ourselves, then those times when we ask for something more, we have to find our value. We have to look and look for the evidence that I'm worthy of asking for something additional. And so if you're not ready all the time, you're not thinking about this all the time, you're depleting your leverage, your equity, because even if you're not asking, taking opportunities to really have people around you understand your value allows them to appreciate you more. So it goes both ways, is to think about what is your value that you provide, and that keeps your eyes on, you know what? I'm really good at what I do. And acting like that or understanding that and having confidence around that, it does make a difference. It does have a shadow over other people. We're more likely to feel a lot more confident about our contribution and see it around us as data. So I want you to really think about that. That's why the answer is it depends. It really depends on who you are, where you are, some of the conditions. And so paying attention to those are really important. Let's talk about some examples just to give you some context to other people who have tried and it's gone well and some that it hasn't. And it's really important to think about what are some of the aspects of this that you could use and what do you want to avoid? So Ravi is a really successful director. He works within a big company and he joined about 3 years ago and hasn't had any increases all that time. So what Ravi did was he banked on the fact that he got great reviews, people like him, he definitely executes well, gets done what needs to get done. But when he went to go ask for more money, first of all, he took his boss by surprise. He did it in a one-on-one and was so ready for it that he just wanted to kind of put it out there and have an answer. And for his boss, that may have not been the right approach. So he framed it to his boss that it's been 3 years. He hasn't gotten anything. And he's really stressed financially from a personal perspective, meaning he needs to have an increase now. And because he didn't position it well, his boss immediately was like, no, and didn't give him a whole lot. He said, I appreciate all the things, the contributions that you give, but it was not a compelling answer or reason why he should consider a promotion for Ravi or an increase in pay is really what it was most important about. So he didn't, because he kind of in the moment said, I need this now. He didn't say it as directly as that, but what his boss heard was, either give me an increase or I'm not going to be happy. And so his boss was like, I can't give you an increase. And Ravi was so upset that he didn't ask additional questions. He just walked out and he ended up leaving the organization within a year. It was unfortunate because he was a highly sought out person because he did really well. He didn't lead with curiosity. He didn't understand more. I bet if we talked to his boss would say it wasn't the right time. Or he would have given him some direction, some thoughts around tying this to something that is important to the company. So Ravi could have said, I just finished or I'm about to take on this new project. The data around this project is it's going to bring this much money to the organization, or it's going to save this much operational cost, or it's tied to this strategic initiative that's important. And when I get this done and I do it with this success rate, I'm going to ask for more money, or being able to frame it to say, this is what I just did. So timing can be really important. And even the approach and the way you frame it to your boss, thinking about what do they need to say yes. That's what Ravi didn't understand. His boss may have not been the ultimate decision maker, but he didn't give his boss anything that he could take forward. And a boss isn't going to advocate for you if they don't have a good case. So having a good case, and even sometimes saying, listen, I want to get an increase. Here's my results. What else do you need to advocate for me? That can take a load off for them depending on where they sit in the organization. That's where depends comes in too. You have to understand who's the decision maker about these things. I'm going to give you another example. So Sophia is a marketing specialist. She is in that mid-manager range, and she decided that it was time for her to get more money, or she was going to go ask for it to see what she could get. So Sophia, different than Ravi, really thought about the approach and the frame. If her boss was the decision maker, and she found that her boss would have to go to somebody else and get the final approval. She knew what the right timing was. She knew that there were other people that had gotten increases that weren't related to like annual reviews or specific things. And she approached her boss with all the data that they needed to move forward, to make that next ask, to feel comfortable and advocate for her. So she framed it around her contributions, the effect that her team had on the business. So what the marketing that they had done, the lift that the sales team had seen based on their contributions. And she framed it as her value. And she even gave her boss an opportunity and said, because this was important to her, I either want an increase now, or I want to see this happen within the next 2 months. And if that's the case, I'm going to ask for a little bit more. That way that boss had the opportunity to go and advocate for her, gave some options so that they could figure out the right pitch internally that could get it approved. They had the data around what she and her team had done. And she gave that person some negotiation leverage to get it now or get it later. So it's kind of an assumptive close. Listen, I need to give her this increase. We can either do it now and it's X amount of money, or I can do it later. The other thing that Sophia understood is she knew where she sat in the organization in terms of her compensation and where the range was. She also had done some research around her role and other organizations and what she made. And that was great data for her boss, because that, without saying it, was basically saying, if you don't give me this increase, there's other opportunities for me outside. So her boss knew that they needed to think about the fact that she might leave without her saying it. So it was really interesting. She ended up getting the increase right away, and she was very satisfied, and even had a conversation with her boss about, listen, I want to continue to contribute at a high level. And my expectation in doing that is I'm going to come to you on a regular basis, not monthly, not quarterly, but twice a year. She would have the conversation with her boss, and it might not be she got an increase every 6 months, but she would start to signal that she was looking to look for another increase. And what did she need to do to tie what she did to the company investing in her? And that boss got used to that. And it became a really comfortable conversation between the two of them. So Sophia is like, she didn't listen to the people around her saying, oh, you can't do that. You have to do it at a certain time. She looked at her own path. She decided what leverage she had. She thought about her boss and how to put it to that person in a way that could allow them the information they needed to advocate for her. I think that helps too. When we get out of our head and we think about, what do I need to help this person? What data, what story, what information do I need to give to them to advocate for me? Then it feels like you're actually doing it for somebody else. There's a mindset thing in this as well. It's important to consider. I'll share some tips, some best practices I think you should consider when looking at timing, framing, and getting out of your own way. So let's just jump right in. Let's talk about some tips that you should consider and start to think for you, when should I do this? Is it time? How long has it been? Be honest with yourself. This might be something that you should just try, even if it feels uncomfortable. So the first is timing. What is the right time? It really is related. I think first and foremost is timing is critical when you have done something that has a direct correlation to the business. We so often look at the business and we think, oh, there's been layoffs or there's budget cuts or this isn't the right time or my boss is stressed and All of these things are, sure, these are factors that might inhibit the answer to asking. But when you think about timing, think about it from the perspective, the contributions that you have. When is the right time to go into it? And it might be that before you take on a new project, or maybe when your boss says, hey, listen, I have all these additional responsibilities I need you to take on, that instead of just saying yes, because you want to be a good person, team member, you say, I am completely fine with that, but I'm going to come back to you in 2 months and I'm going to expect that we can have a conversation about what will be some additional compensation for me for taking on this new role. You can do that same frame when you think about a project that's coming up. And before you start in your one-on-one with your boss, even saying, I am really excited about this project. It's going to take a lot of work. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to come back to you in X amount of time and I'm going to ask for additional compensation because I think you're going to just be overjoyed by my results, my team's results. So timing is really critical. And you might want to think about, is the right time when the layoffs just happened last week, even if that was your plan? No. Is it the right timing at the end of the year? Maybe to anchor the idea with your boss, but not to ask. So really be thoughtful about timing. And this is where you could use a mentor to ask, what is the right timing with this organization? So timing is the first one. The second is looking at the data and the examples that you can provide. What is the evidence that this person that you're presenting to needs to bring this forward? What are the results of the project? Not related to you personally, right? It's about how it relates to the business, to the team. And even if you are on projects that don't have a direct correlation to revenue or specific operational KPIs, you can still find beneficial factors that you can say, this is the impact that I had. And even if it's about bringing all teams together, increasing the trust within teams and groups, there's other factors that there might even not be a number to it, but there's definitely a benefit. And you had a direct correlation to that. So using data and examples is really important. It helps the other person, again, have the leverage they need to go back. Think about a car salesman, how they go to their boss. They take your information. I'll see what my boss says. Think about that. What do you need to give to them to convince them that if they don't get this for you, whatever the walkaway is going to be for you? And it might not be that you're leaving. You have to just be really thoughtful about how you position that to them. But using data and examples helps you help them make a case to get you what you need. And then the third thing is to really practice how you're going to ask. If you're working for somebody that knows you really well, they're probably going to be able to think about, they're really nervous, or this is the easy way that I can tell them no. So have confidence. Be really sure about what you're asking. Frame it in a way that they know you're serious, but also be flexible. Lead with curiosity. If they say no, don't just stand up and walk away. Say, help me understand more. Is it no now? Do you need more data? This is really important to me, so I want to help you help me. What do you need? What do I need to consider? How can I do this? Asking them those things helps them to give you the information that you need. Because when you ask, they might not have thought about it themselves. And just them answering is committing to the next conversation because you're giving them the opportunity to say, okay, not now, but if you come back in a month and you have this, this, and this, then when you come back in a month, and don't forget to come back in a month or whatever they say, and have this, this, and this, the three things that they tell you, whatever that is, then when you come back to them, say, this is what I want and what do we need to do to move forward? And what's the timing on this? Don't be afraid to ask, what is the timing? So have confidence, be flexible, and really think about what if they say no, what are you going to say? If they say yes, what are you going to say? If they say maybe, or they give you a soft no, what is that going to look like? Practice, have confidence, and be flexible. That's tip 3. So the first one is timing. The second is have data and examples to make your case, to help them make your case for you. And the third is to practice, have confidence, and be flexible and stay in the conversation. hope that this has made you really think today, because it does depend. And because of that, we inhibit ourselves because we don't know what's on the other side. We get nervous about it and we put it off. We think, oh, I'll just wait until my next one-on-one and I'll have this conversation. Doing this and thinking about this actively on a regular basis is something that is really important. It allows you to take advantage of a situation that might be unexpected where you can advocate for yourself without the plan. You might see the best timing ever and you are not ready because you haven't had this proactive conversation with yourself, this planning period with yourself that I think that you should have every quarter and asking this prompt of yourself. But remember, when you're ready, you need to think about the timing. You need to have the right data and examples to make your case. And then you have to prepare and frame it in a way that you can help that person advocate for you. It's really important to think about this regularly so you're not caught off guard, but also that you celebrate your value so that people around you see it. And when there's opportunities, you do it, but also you make yourself a priority by asking, because even if you get a no, they understand that that's important to you. In the meeting about the budgets and about increases, your boss may advocate for you because you ask more often than your peer does, your colleague does. That's what happened to me. They gave Dan more opportunities because he was a squeaky wheel, if you will. So here's the prompt I want you to consider. Write this down. What have you been putting off in asking for more or leaving your role? If you're unhappy, maybe it is time to go. Am I getting in my own way? Only you can answer that. And then what am I going to commit to today? Because what happens is when you don't do it, time just passes by. And then you look back and you've missed so many opportunities. Don't be afraid to ask. Ask out of curiosity, learn more. When you advocate for you, you're advocating for your team because you're known as somebody that's going to do that. I'm so happy you made the choice to be here today. If you want to go deeper, I share personal stories in my weekly newsletter, Adopting a Negotiator Mindset. When you know what you want, you have to adopt a negotiator mindset to get there. So go to negotiationlove.com and subscribe today.